How does a city rebuild its soul, not just its buildings, after everything has been destroyed? And I mean everything. Homes reduced to rubble, hope shattered by hate, and voices stifled by their own state. In Dresden, the answer isn't just in what was rebuilt, but how and by whom.
Hi, I'm Justine, the nerdy half of the Breakaway Bravehearts, and today I'm in Dresden. This is a city that's built not just on the idea of beauty, but on the idea of community. Dresden's history is full of dramatic turning points: war, division, protest, change. But linking it all is community. I saw straight away that this was a city of community when I realized I had walked into their summer festival. Over June and July, the whole central of the Altmarkt turns into a community space. There's free entry, there's stalls, there's art, there's music, there's movement, all designed to bring the whole city together.
But this kind of togetherness didn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of different people to get this level of collective celebration. It's those people and their stories that we're going to explore today.
Now, we all know people are messy, and not all of these stories are going to be about happy, happy, joy, joy, everyone holding hands and singing Kumbaya. A lot of them, there is conflict, there is debate, there is disagreement, and yet there is progress.
Dresden has always had a strong sense of community, from its origins as a merchant and central hub in the 12th century. But the version we're exploring today was shaped by those who lived through the violence of World War II and the long struggle of recovery, when the city had to be rebuilt almost from scratch. Just a short walk from the Altmarkt, in the heart of the old city, there's a statue that quietly captures the spirit of that recovery. Not with grandeur, but with humility.
The statue shows just one woman, but she represents a whole community, the Trümmerfrauen. She stands on a pile of bricks, powerful, strong, pickaxe in her hand, scarf on her head. Trümmerfrauen, or Rubble Women, brick ladies if you will, were instrumental in cleaning up Dresden after the destruction of World War II.
In the aftermath of the devastating Allied bombing in February 1945, Dresden was left in ruins.
With so many men killed, missing, or still prisoners of war, it was up to the women, the widows, the mothers, the teenagers to clear the mountains of rubble that was once their homes, their schools, their shops.
Immediately after taking control, Allied authorities required women between the ages of 15 and 50 to join the clean-up effort. Protective labour laws were lifted, and they worked back-breaking 9-hour days. With no heavy machinery, they used sledgehammers, buckets and bare hands to dismantle unstable buildings, salvaging reusable bricks, steel, wood and even old toilets to be used for rebuilding.
But the story of the Trümmerfrauen is actually a little bit more complex than what the statue may suggest. For many of the women, it wasn't out of altruistic heroism that they went to this work. For many of them, it was the only way to secure food rations, stamps for their families. The physical toll was immense, the pay was meagre, and many of them actually suffered from social stigma. And of course, every day they were literally immersed in the destruction, loss, the trauma that comes with a destroyed city. There are times when their story has been romanticized, politicized, and perhaps their hardships and their lack of options were glossed over.
Some historians argue that the number of women involved was actually smaller than often claimed, and that in West Germany, many saw the work as degrading. It didn't fit the post-war ideal of women returning to traditional roles, and the memory of it quietly faded away. But in East Germany, the image of women clearing rubble by hand became a celebrated symbol of socialist strength and community resilience.
The Trümmer women eventually became symbols of resilience as they rebuilt the city brick by brick, street by street. You know, thinking about women like the Trümmerfrauen really puts things into perspective for me. They rebuilt a whole city brick by brick. Here I am. I'm just trying to build a YouTube channel subscriber by subscriber. But I wouldn't have this freedom, these options, if it weren't for people like her, who showed that resilience and strength and helped build the future. I guess that's why I'm so devoted to history and why I love creating stories and videos to share with the world about the people who have led us to where we are now. If you also enjoy these stories, please join me. Come with us on the Breakaway Bravehearts journey. Hit subscribe and the notifications bell.
In all the wreckage and loss, some ruins stood out more than others, not just because of their size, but because of what they meant to the people of Dresden. And none stood out more than the Frauenkirche, a landmark that had watched over the city since 1743.
In February 1945, as World War II came to its end, the Allies dropped thousands of bombs on Dresden. It was a destruction that was horrific. In fact, I've left you a link in the description to a podcast I highly recommend if you'd like to go into more detail around this. It's kind of infamous. The city burned for days and over 25,000 people were killed. And this beautiful church, once a symbol of unity, was reduced to ashes. For decades, its charred remains just sat untouched. But then after reunification, people began to ask, could we rebuild this church? East Germany was still working through a period of economic decline, building back its strength. City officials said they couldn't afford it. But the ordinary, everyday people decided they could do better than that.
In the 1990s, after reunification, a grassroots movement began. Ordinary people, local residents, artists, historians, launched what seemed impossible: to reconstruct the church stone by stone exactly as it had been.
Citizens donated their own money, children held bake sales, musicians performed concerts, people from all around the world, 20 different countries, contributed to the funding, including the descendants of the RAF pilots who helped destroy it in the first place. They didn't give out of guilt, they gave out of the need to heal together.
Entry into the church is free and it is well worth a look. Look out for one of the church's most sacred symbols, a small cross made from medieval nails. It came from the Coventry Cathedral in the UK, a building that was also destroyed by bombing, this time by the Nazis. When Coventry rebuilt, they forged this cross as a symbol of forgiveness, and in 1990 they gave one to Dresden.
Today, the Frauenkirche stands because of individuals who wanted to create something bigger than themselves and knew they needed a community behind them to do that. Euro by euro, they have rebuilt this church, not as a symbol of destruction, but as a symbol of hope. The result is a testament to global community. The city said, we remember, we rebuild. And the rest of the world said, yeah, we can help you out with that.
But not all visions of unity came from the grassroots. In the decades after the war, East Germany promoted its own version, unity built on collective ideals and loyalty to the state. And you can still see it prominently displayed in the city centre.
This is the Path of the Red Flag, a mural of ideals and unity. It's a relic of propaganda, yes, but it's more than that. It's a reminder of a time when an entire society was built around the idea that unity, community, could change the world.
Painted in 1969, the mural stretches across the wall of a former trade union building. It was meant to capture the spirit of the socialist state, workers, farmers and intellectuals united in a shared future. In East Germany, art wasn't just decoration, it was instruction.
When it was unveiled, this mural was supposed to inspire, to show the East German citizen who they were and who they should become. But history and the people had other ideas.
In the decades that followed, the promises of the socialist state gave way to economic struggles, growing disillusionment and quiet acts of resistance. until eventually the system itself began to crumble.
The socialist state that commissioned this mural is long gone, and the flag that they all followed is folded away. The world has changed, but the mural remains, and maybe that's the point. While ideologies may fade, the central idea that progress requires people working together will always be the same. While the figures on the mural raise their fists as they march, Dresdeners today take a more relaxed approach as they stroll past, on their way home from work or to enjoy a glass of wine with friends.
As you watch this peaceful community today, it's easy to forget the struggles beneath the surface. The path to today wasn't always smooth, especially after reunification, when extremist groups began exploiting Dresden's difficult history to spread division.
You see, after reunification, neo-Nazi groups started gathering in Dresden, especially around every February in the anniversary of the bombing. They wanted to rewrite the narrative into one of German victimhood. At one stage, 6,500 neo-Nazis gathered here to demonstrate. They marched under slogans claiming Allied terror, and the chaos they created overshadowed official commemorations.
But it wasn't just about rewriting history. After reunification, many in Eastern Germany faced economic hardship and a loss of identity. The perfect conditions for far-right groups to exploit. By holding marches here in Dresden, they were looking for attention and trying to rally disillusioned young people while intimidating minorities and anyone who stood against them.
But the people of Dresden were not content at letting their city, built through peace and unity, turn into a playground for neo-Nazis. So they decided to push back. Not through violence, but through togetherness. Tens of thousands of people came together, pensioners, students, clergy, artists, and they just stood together. They formed a human line, a barricade across the proposed pathway of the neo-Nazi march.
They called their movement Dresden Stellt Sich Quer. Dresden stands in the way, because that's exactly what they did.
They just stood, arm in arm, peacefully, firmly, refusing to let hatred pass. The people that formed the barricade weren't activists, they were just neighbours. Some of them had lived through 1945. Some of them hadn't even been born when the Berlin Wall fell. And yet, on that day, together they formed one single unit, a line that would not move. The message they were telling: our memory belongs to all of us, not to those who want to twist it into messages of hate. Because community isn't always built in sunlight and song. Sometimes it's built in cold, dark mornings, linked hands, quiet refusal, a determination to stand still for what is right.
And while neo-Nazi groups have not disappeared entirely, the movement has made it much harder for them to organise large public demonstrations, changing public awareness and demonstrating community resilience. Dresden's strength has always come from its people standing together, not just to push back against hate, but to build something new.
But the building behind me represents a different approach to community rebuilding. This is the New Synagogue. Completed in 2001, this is not a replica of the grand synagogue that once stood here. This is something completely new, stark, but forward-looking.
The original synagogue stood on this very site for nearly a century. It was a vibrant centre for Dresden's Jewish community. Then, in November 1938, it was destroyed during Kristallnacht, the coordinated nationwide attack against Jewish communities organised by the Nazis. It was a brutal attempt to erase an entire community.
For decades, this ground actually just stood empty, not rebuilt and barely acknowledged. But after reunification, something changed. The people of Dresden wanted to address that. And they decided not just to remember, but to restore that presence that was erased so violently.
The story here isn't just about the building. Unlike the Frauenkirche, which was rebuilt to look like it did before, the synagogue got a whole new design, a fresh start. But just like the church, it stands because people, Jews, non-Jews, locals and donors from around the world worked together. It's a story of reconciliation and new beginnings.
The design of the synagogue is symbolic. It's not supposed to replace the past. It's supposed to reflect it. It's a ghost-like tracing of what once was here. Not everyone bought into this symbol. Some people wanted a more faithful reproduction of the original Moorish design building that was destroyed in 1938. But the Jewish community decided to go with this design rooted more in honesty than nostalgia. It's not trying to pretend that that loss never happened. It's trying to acknowledge it face on. That decision not to replicate the grandeur of the past, but to look to a sort of more minimal, austere future, met with a lot of controversy. Many people saw it as too cold, too abstract. But for many people in the Jewish community, this restrained design shows strength. It doesn't sentimentalize the past. It just holds the space for it.
The Jewish community in Dresden is still rebuilding, and this synagogue is a commitment that says you belong here. You are not forgotten. In a city where history is so often framed by loss, this space shows what a community can do when they don't try to erase the trauma, but instead try to heal by building something new together. From rebuilding after tragedy to coming together in celebration, Dresden shows the power of community in all its forms. It's not just about remembering the past, it's about living, growing, and sharing joy right now. And the locals are happy to share the city's energy with everyone who visits. If you want to join the fun, I recommend checking out the annual Summer Festival, which runs every June through August.
The program lasts over 79 days, includes everything from community yoga, silent movie screenings, poetry under the stars, open air live concerts, you name it, they've got it. All created by a community who believes that culture belongs to everyone. Dresden really surprised me. Knowing how much of the city was destroyed, I had been expecting a whole new city altogether. So I was so surprised to see how beautifully they've rebuilt the Altstadt and managed to combine it with the new Stadt and all the modern contemporary art as well. Really beautiful. But because Dresden is a city built for people, by people, I know there is a lot more of it that I haven't seen yet. This is a place I'm putting on my I'm coming back here list. But tomorrow I'm heading back to Wales, where I've got more adventures lined up. I hope you'll be there to join me. Until then, happy travels everyone.